Hey guys, it is Carly here bringing you your Tuesday review on body bags, and today I'm going to be talking about a sequel called The Curse of Robert here. Yeah, I picked up this 3-pack at Walmart just because I've been really curious about these movies for a while now, just based on what I've heard about them and the fact that they just seem to keep coming out. I mean, they're up to the 4th one at this point, and they've come out every year since 2015, so that's a little bit interesting to me, and I've heard people say they're actually kind of decent, so I really wanted to check them out for myself, and I figured I would talk about part 2 today because I watched this one more recently than the first one, and I feel like it's more in my memory than the first one was. So the plot with part 2 is you're following this character, Emily, as she has just started a job at a museum. She's working the graveyard shift as a cleaner, and it's basically just her and this other cleaner and then 2 guys who are working security, and that's about it. So it's a very peaceful, laid-back job. The Robert doll is actually an exhibit at this museum, and you know, the owner kind of has this gimmick where people have to like pay to take pictures with him, or else he'll like be evil and curse them or something like that. So he kind of makes money off of this haunted doll act, but it's all supposed to be an act. It's not supposed to be real. And of course, some weird stuff starts happening late at night while Emily is working, and she starts to suspect that it might be this doll causing issues, and that it might actually be a haunted doll. And then, of course, with the problems that are going on, the police start to suspect maybe Emily is behind it, so she kind of has to try to clear her name and prove that the doll is actually alive. So that is the story there. Right off the bat, I will say this one, as well as part 1, are definitely rip-offs of Child's Play, and a little bit mixed with Annabelle as well, but mainly Child's Play, with the whole thing with the doll being alive and killing people, but then the one of the actual adults or kids gets blamed for the actions, and they are kind of in some hot water because, of course, no one believes that a doll is going to come to life and kill people, but that is actually what's happening. As well as some of the shots in these movies I find are very similar to Child's Play. But with that being said, I feel like these movies do try to be good. You know, with part 2, I feel like the acting is pretty decent, and they do try to develop the characters a little bit, although I don't really care too much for the characters, or not necessarily for, they're okay characters, it's just like I don't really care too much about the character development. I feel like I would rather see more of the actual doll killing people and things like that, because I think the Robert doll is actually pretty creepy looking, and when he goes around killing people, it's actually really entertaining, because it's not like Chucky where his face moves and he talks and things like that. Really, his face is very much the same throughout, and it just looked very comical. Kind of reminds you of something like Puppet Master or movies like that. So I find the parts with the doll killing people to be actually pretty entertaining and enjoyable. I just feel like you kind of need more than that, especially with these types of movies that are a little more low budget, and they're trying to rely a little bit on the character development. But like I said, I was kind of bored with that, and I feel like part 2 does amp it up a little bit more with the fun factor, where part 1 was a little bit tedious to get through, and while part 1 had good acting, it was just took a really long time to get going, and this one kind of suffers from that as well a little bit. Like, you have a side thing with Emily and one of the maintenance guys kind of flirting a little bit and stuff like that, and I just don't overly care about that too much, and it kind of took me out of the movie in some parts and was a little bit hard to pay attention to. But with that being said, once it gets towards the ending, I think it amps up pretty well, and I find it to be pretty entertaining, especially compared to the first one. I think they do a better job in this one than they do in the first one with making it entertaining, and that is very important for a movie like this, so they did a good job on that. There's also a part in this movie that seems like a total ripoff of Friday the 13th as well, and that is basically the very ending part, or a little bit before the ending, but it just seems like the exact ending of Friday the 13th. So there is that. This movie has no shame in kind of stealing from other movies, so that's something to kind of expect when you're going into a film like this. But overall, it's okay. It's got decent acting, and it's got pretty good doll design. I think the Robert doll, like I said, is kind of creepy looking, and just the expression of the face is pretty mesmerizing. So I think they do a good job with the doll itself. And like I said, if you want to check these movies out, I definitely recommend Part 2 over Part 1 because it's more entertaining. But I don't know that I would necessarily go back to this movie or anything like that because, like I said, it takes a while to get going, and it's not overly fun, but it just has sort of a fun ending where the pace gets a little bit better. But overall, it's decent. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Nothing special or anything like that, but a decent fun watch if you're into these sort of haunted killer doll movies. So 6.5 out of 10 for The Curse of Robert. Thank you guys for joining me for this Tuesday review, and I will see you next week.